The United Nations Security Council has agreed that the UN's peacekeeping mission in the DRC will provide logistical support for next week's elections. And this is in response to Kinshasa's request to have MONUSCO help in transporting election material, even as it pushes for the UN mission there to leave. In a letter from the Security Council, MONUSCO is authorized to provide limited logistical support for the 2023 elections in any provinces requested by Congolese authorities. According to the UN, the support will be within its mission's existing resources. Voters are due to go to the polls on Wednesday. Let's get more of this. Chris Ochimaringa is in Kinshasa and joins us live. Chris, welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us. What has been the government's reaction to the UN Security Council's decision? Chris?
Well, Richard, the DRC government hasn't issued any official statement about this decision by the United Nations Security Council for logistical support to the Electoral Commission. I tried to reach out to the Minister of Communication, but he hasn't responded yet. Now, the DRC government is in a very awkward position because, it has been putting a lot of pressure on the United Nations peacekeeping mission, known as MONUSCO, to leave the country because of its reported failure to end the conflict in the east of the DRC, despite being here for 20 years, more than 20 years. And the initial plan of the DRC was to have the United Nations peacekeeping mission leave the DRC by the 20th of this month, which is next Wednesday when the elections will be held. And that is the very day that the current mandate of the UN peacekeeping mission is supposed to end. So they wanted them to leave, but the United Nations Security Council said that that would create a vacuum that would be exploited by militia groups to start attacking civilians. So they said the withdrawal has to be gradual and responsible, and that is why the DRC government has accepted that they stay a little longer before leaving the DRC. But certainly what we know from talking to some people here is that this is very welcome news. The Electoral Commission will be able to deliver the electoral materials to some of the hard-to-reach areas across the country. Richard?
Well, Chris, in light of what you've just said, highlight and illuminate for us exactly what the government is expecting MONUSCO to do.
So what they expect is that MONUSCO should help them with planes and helicopters to deliver the electoral materials to across the 26 provinces of the country. According to the DRC's Electoral Commission, there are more than 70,000 polling centers, and some of these areas are have very poor road network, and this is a rainy season, so many of those roads have become impassable. So they need the support of MONUSCO to provide the planes and helicopters to quickly deliver these voting kits to some of these areas that are hard to reach. And that's exactly what the DRC government has been saying. But like you mentioned earlier, MONUSCO has been authorized to do this in a limited way because they have already been supporting the DRC government in areas where they're mandated to operate, namely Ituri, North Kivu and South Kivu. These are the areas where the conflict has been raging for quite a while. And so they are now going to have to, work within their existing budget to see how they can support the DRC government to help them deliver some of these voting kits in these hard-to-reach areas. Richard?
And finally, Chris, before we let you go, how is the DRC's Electoral Commission preparing for polls in that region? How would you assess that?
Well, they have said that they're going to deploy police and soldiers in all the polling stations across the country, and especially in those areas where there has been a lot of conflict in Ituri, North Kivu and South Kivu. They will beef up the presence with soldiers, and we have seen that over the past week there has been no reports of fighting because the United States government brokered a ceasefire between the government forces and the M23 that was supposed to last for 72 hours, and that elapsed just a few days ago, and they have also extended it for 2 weeks. And we have heard that the US government has been in talks with the Rwandan authorities and the Congolese authorities to ensure that these temporary ceasefire holds to allow people who have been displaced to return to their areas, and also that the elections happens in a very peaceful manner.